Welcome everyone to a special edition of Politics for the People live on Facebook. Tonight, I have the pleasure of talking with three dynamic leaders in the national reform movement. Three women who work every day to revitalize and remake our democracy so that it works for the American people. Joining me this evening are Katie Fahey, the Executive Director of The People, an organization that brings together everyday Americans to take action to create a more responsive government of, by, and for the people. In 2018, Katie led the successful Voters Not Politicians people-powered campaign in Michigan that won a nonpartisan redistricting referendum that ended gerrymandering. Katherine Gehl is the founder and chairwoman of the Institute for Political Innovation and the author with Michael Porter of The Politics Industry, How Political Innovation Can Break Partisan Gridlock and Save Our Democracy. Katherine's book, which is a wonderful book, is our current Politics for the People selection. Katherine is a business leader, an author, and on the board of the National Association of Nonpartisan Reformers. Jacqueline Salit is the president of Independent Voting, the network of independent voters and leaders representing the over 40% of Americans who are independents. She's a 30-year veteran of the movement, having played vital roles in the third-party presidential campaigns of both Lenore Fulani and Ross Perot. She ran the Independence Party segment of Michael Bloomberg's 3 mayoral campaigns in New York City. Jackie is also an author and a playwright. Welcome, Jackie, Katie, and Katherine. It's great to have you here with us tonight.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Well, I want to kick off our conversation with a question for Katherine. All three of you tonight are leaders in the broad-based reform movement that's focused on structural reforms to our political and electoral process. Katherine, thank you so much for your book, The Politics Industry, in which you and Michael Porter make a compelling case for the need to introduce innovation into the political arena, or as you describe it, the political industrial complex. When I think, and I think for a lot of us, when we think of innovation, we often think of technology or bringing new approaches and best practices into the education arena or into the business world. What does it mean to bring innovation into the political arena?
Oh, well, first of all, that's a great question. I'm going to answer it, but I just have to say I'm so happy to be here with this wonderful group of women for this discussion. It's an honor, really, to work with you and then to be with you guys tonight. Okay, so innovation. I didn't want to keep talking about reform because I think there's something much more powerful and exciting about innovation. And when I talk about political innovation, one of the key defining factors is that I say innovation is concerned with driving breakthrough results from our political system. So it's not anything that tinkers around the edges, and it's not any effort that might be called a reform, but is really a Trojan horse for advantage of one side of the duopoly or the other, which is this, sometimes there are reforms and they may even be good things we should do, but if we leave the existing duopoly intact, they're considered to sort of benefit one side more than the other. Innovation really changes the whole game that we're playing in a way that makes it more likely that our elected officials deliver results in the public interest. And therefore, those are the only types of efforts that I really want to spend the time on, because I think that's what people are dying for out of their political system. They want representation, they want democracy, they want all of the best things we believe in as Americans, but then they want that with results. And that's what innovation needs to drive.
Thanks, Katherine. Jackie, Katie, how do you see that? How do you see the issue of innovation?
I'll jump in here in advance of this amazing accidental innovator who, who in the most amazing, intuitive way, without very much precedent to guide her. Katie, thank you for your amazing job and your wonderful work. I think what Katherine is saying here is just incredibly insightful. And maybe I just would add one thing to it. I agree with it completely. Maybe just to add another dimension to it as follows, which is that this is a very volatile and complicated nation, the United States of America. And there are many, many different strains that have propelled us forward, and they could be identified in a host of ways. One of the ways that I would identify it is the dynamic or the tension between freedom and fairness. Freedom to build, freedom to be entrepreneurs, freedom to create wealth and to create opportunity, et cetera, on the one hand, and fairness, the humanist concept that all people deserve a fair opportunity, a pathway to progress and to prosperity, et cetera. And historically, there's been a tremendous tension between those things. And in some respects, you could say, this is an oversimplification, but you could say that the two parties in the two-party system was created in ways that reflect those two positions. Freedom on the one hand, that's kind of the Republican Party mantra, and fairness on the other, the Democratic Party mantra. I think part of where we're at and why we need to innovate is that the freedom fairness dynamic has to be redefined completely. And I think the American people will have to take it upon ourselves to create a new definition and a new synthesis of those things. And in order to be able to do that, we have to innovate the system because the current system won't allow us to do that. So I think the innovation piece is so well put, and I really appreciate, Katherine, what you're saying about the limit to trying to fix things around the edges. We're way past that. We're way past. But we need to innovate and create an environment where we can work on these issues and find new ways to define them and new ways to bring them together that work for everyone.
And I completely agree with both what Jackie and Katherine have said. I think, you know, and maybe I'm biased because I am a millennial, but our world has changed a lot, not only from technology, but also how we receive information, what worldwide events are happening, how connected our marketplace is, how connected people are to each other. And we need an institution, a government, a way to make decisions, a way to actually respond to people, to have a representative government that actually can solve 21st century problems. And we don't have that right now. And I think innovation is key to that, because the system that we've created right now is to me, feels like made for a different time, different world in some ways, but also has been corrupted by self-interested stakeholders, you know, whether it's different special interests of business, nonprofits, a political party, whatever that may be. But what gets lost with the amount of people who have spent so much time and energy and money trying to make the system work better for them is that the system doesn't actually work for who it was originally intended and designed, the people of America. So that we can have elected representatives who meet in our state capitals and actually are trying to represent our cities, our communities, our neighborhoods, and who can meet in Washington, D.C. and actually try and represent our states and what's important to the people of that place. I mean, it's when it works really well, but I agree that innovation, it's time for it. And I think it could be really exciting. Now more than ever, we could actually get more input from millions of people. We could get more information out to millions of people, but we need a system that's designed to do that now that we have more innovations, but also more complexity in our world.
Thank you, guys. Wow, there's so much there in what you're all sharing, so much to think about. Let me throw you another question. This is for all three of you. The September issue of Vanity Fair, which is entitled The Great Fire, it's a special edition with a beautiful cover of Breonna Taylor, and the issue is devoted to her and that situation. It's guest edited by award-winning author Ta-Nehisi Coates. And he writes the opening essay in which he says, voting is civic hygiene, both essential and insufficient. So I wanted to ask each of you to share your thoughts on that proposition. And anyone can jump in first.
Yeah.
I'm happy to go. Or Jackie, you can.
No, go ahead, Katie.
Our votes do have some power. There is billions of dollars spent every election year to try and manipulate and either have some people turn out or some people hopefully not turn out or vote a certain way. We do get to decide different issues, but with the manipulations that have been made to the political system, they don't hold enough power. And I think our civic duty, what it is to be a citizen, what it is to live in a democratic republic, is being able to actually have our voices be heard and influence policymaking, the way decisions are made, but also so that they can be reflective of our will. And when you look, I know there's been several studies out, but at the influence that the everyday person has on their opinions and whether it actually is a political agenda and means that a policy is passed or not, it's statistically insignificant what any of us think, no matter how passionately or how much we argue with each other on social media. Statistically insignificant. It doesn't actually hold weight on laws changing. And that, I think, is where it takes more. If we want our country to truly be for, by, and of the people, then it's going to take, and Jackie, I know you were just saying this earlier, it's going to take the people coming and redefining what that means and recreating a system that I think Katherine lays out really well in her book, being able to go at these root causes and the design, not, just advocating, hey, this is how I think what the solution to our debt problem is, but this is how the system can be designed to actually make sure that there's representation at the table, to actually make sure that results are driven instead of just popularity contest or money being spent that drives decisions. So I do think it's necessary hygiene, but I also think we really have to think seriously if we want to keep our democracy, what are we going to do to actually make sure that we can participate in it?
Yeah. I mean, I would say what Katie just said really sums it up. I have to say when I first looked at this quote from Ta-Nehisi Coates, which I loved, I think it's very poetic actually. And when I thought about something being essential and insufficient, he's talking about voting. The first thing I thought of was love. It's essential, but it's insufficient. But that's probably for another call, Kath. So we won't get into a discussion of that. But I do think, look, in some ways, what I hear Katie saying, which I really agree with, is that voting is no longer an expression of power in America, that those two things have been completely wrenched apart. And so we have to do something about that because, right now, the key decisions, the key inputs all happen before the voters show up and are allowed to show up. And that has to change. And that disengagement, that disconnection is it's a very, very serious problem now. And it's something I think that our movement and our efforts are trying to.
So I will also give a comment on this, and I'm going to give two. First of all, yes, voting is certainly insufficient, but here's the thing. If you vote in the primary, it's less insufficient than if you vote in the general. So until we fix our broken party primary system, please at least vote twice in the primary and again in the general. But if you're only going to vote once, just vote in the primary, because that's where all the decisions are made. Now, then we're going to fix it, which brings me to my second point. I used to, I don't think I really say so much anymore, but when I was giving my speech, you know, in the first couple years of doing this work, I would end with, often with this quote by Thomas Jefferson, where he is said to have said that in America, we don't have government by the majority, we have government by the majority who participate. And then I'll explain, and I explain this to the listeners now. I always thought, and I think most people think, that that means we have to participate by voting. And what I now have realized it really means is we have to participate in the design of the rules of the game that are going to make those votes mean or not mean what they need to in a democracy. Which is to say, when, you know, when we're saying now the votes don't have enough power, that's why the majority, you know, have to participate in the design so that that hasn't been taken away from us. And when we do, when we now start to participate in the design, we'll have the best of both worlds, which is now, you know, the design will be better, and then the votes will become necessary and also much more powerful than they are today. And general election votes will become powerful. And everybody's vote will become powerful once you have, for example, ranked choice voting, because it won't just be the district for whom, with the party for whom that district is gerrymandered or naturally predisposed to.
Right. And of course, Katherine, as you write about so eloquently in the book, we need to have that first round of primary votings has to be open to all voters. And you're advocating for the final 5, where 5 people then would move forward, but independents and all voters would have equal access in that first round. Yeah, great points, guys. Really, I so think we really deepen that quote. For my final question, I couldn't resist. I thought we should do a lightning round focused on what it's like to be women in the political arena. So 3 rapid questions. Maybe the third one you can elaborate a little further, but let me kick it off with this. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much is the politics industry dominated by men? And let's go Katie, Jackie, then Katherine.
You know, honestly, I think 9, but I think the innovators, there's much more representation from women.
Do that. I'm going to second that. I just would have said 20, even though you asked for a scale. but I think the leadership for innovation is very, very heavily influenced by women and led by women.
I was going between 8 and 9. And I think it's probably 8, but that the 8, but you know, whatever portion of that then is women's leadership is sort of still heavily influenced by believing that only certain things are possible, as, you know, looking at the past, and that the most we can hope for is this amount of change. Meaning, I don't think that that either women or men leading in politics right now are leading with like full freedom to reimagine a system that could deliver like sort of exponentially more than the current system delivers. So and because the past was really created by men, I think we're still seeing that influence today. And as we free up, as you guys are talking about, so many of the innovators are women, as we free that up, where more women are getting involved, and they're getting involved from this perspective of change, not incremental, but transformational, that we'll be less a prisoner of the past and just trying to, you know, move something 5%, and will be more new creation. And then it's not just the numbers of people involved, but it's really the impact that they're having that will increase.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Was that a lightning
Second
round?
one.
I think I screwed that up, huh? Sorry.
Nah, that was good. It was so juicy. You get a pass. That's fine.
That was more like a thunder round than a lightning round.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Well said, Jackie. How many times have you had the experience of substantially helping to elect someone or getting an initiative passed only after the fact to have men step in to claim the credit?
Are we starting with me again?
Go. Yeah, go ahead, Katie.
I think me making a Facebook post did help, so you can't take that away. But I do think
the origin was there.
The assumption from a lot of people too is the opposite. It was so many times if I'm standing next to a male colleague or even just somebody on my team, the questions go to him instead of me, or because I'm like enthusiastic and really believe in our democracy. Apparently that means I can't be strategic, even though I was the campaign manager of our campaign that raised the most money out of any reform campaign in 2018 and had more volunteers than any reform campaign in 2018. But that being said, Voters Not Politicians had some amazing men that we couldn't have been successful without, as well as a bunch of amazing women. And women really did hustle harder in Michigan. We had a dynamo team. And a quick story, I'm also going to make this a thunder round. It's in a funder meeting, and they were looking around, they were like, this is so diverse. And I was like, it really wasn't that diverse. And they were like, no, we're normally in a room full of all men, and you don't have a single man here. It was my whole leadership team in Voters Not Politicians. I felt pretty proud about that.
It's great.
So we're changing it.
So I'll say
Jackie
that it's less that a man steps in to take the credit and more that the watchers or the commentators or just the peanut gallery assumes that it was that man. So I'm not saying some individual person is coming and take the credit. It's just what Katie's saying. They look over here. They keep looking somewhere else for where that change came from. Yeah. And I think that happens in 100% of the cases, not perhaps 100% of the time, but I think there is an element of making the erroneous assumption that a man must have somehow been at least, there and probably in charge.
Yeah. I'll act like it's a lightning round many times. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Because Katie and Katherine gave like brilliant descriptions of how it actually works. So I'm there. I sign on many times.
Great. Right. Thank you. I think we are changing those dynamics. And let me throw you, this is the final one in our lightning round, although you can expand on this a little bit. What skills do you think, and you've already said some of them, but what skills do you think women uniquely bring to the political reform and political innovation movement?
So for us, I know we had a lot more bridge builders who were women. Not that we didn't have any that were men, but who was willing to go and talk to somebody that they maybe thought they weren't going to come out with a good agreement on, like women who were willing to put in the work of having to maybe not voice their opinion first so that the other person could feel heard first. Saw that over and over again. I also, and I don't love saying this, but I do think it's true, so I'll own it. I think egos are less involved with women in political leadership, at least at the campaign level. It was much more about how do we get this done? How do we get it done effectively than who's getting credit for it getting done this way. And the other thing that I think is unfortunate and I hope to change is I saw a lot of women, and I think Katherine, you were alluding to this a little bit, who weren't owning their power, owning how amazing they really were and how much they could really accomplish. And that's something I really want to change, because they were the ones getting it done and just didn't feel as qualified, is what I would hear a lot. Like, I've never done this before, but they still would do it, and they do it really efficiently and in detail and making sure that they were communicating to their team. So I hope we can change that one. But I really think bridge building overall, and being focused on how do we actually drive results, not just talk about this or not just wonder who's going to get the credit for it.
I'll jump in here. The skills that women have, particular to this movement, it's really important. First, I just want to say, Katherine, thank you so much for inviting me to join the group that you've put together of women in political innovation. I really loved the last gathering, and I just appreciated your welcome statement to me. It just made me feel so at home and so included right away. So I wanted to publicly thank you for that. I think maybe I would distill it down to two qualities that women have. One, we hold our liquor better than men, which is essential in this game. And two, I think we're less afraid of losing in order to build. And I just think that is at this stage of the movement's development, I think that's just a critical viewpoint and a sensibility to have.
Yeah, so I'm just a, big believer in the power of women in this change movement, which is why, and what Jackie's referring to, we have, a group of women in political innovation who are getting together, who are committed to growing the power of women to lead in the movement. And so, but what do I think we have that's unique? I mean, we have more than enough that's unique. So I don't necessarily want to focus on something that's negative, but I want to focus on something that if we focused on it would make a difference, which is, it sounded in my last answer that maybe I was saying, oh, everybody always turns and tries to, give the credit to a man, but we're complicit in that. Because when the applause starts happening, people start looking down. Like if the applause is happening and it was you, your job is to go, oh, thank you so much, and then here's why we need to do that. Here's why the women need to, thank you so much, because then right after that, that woman is going to be tapped to lead the next effort and will go into that effort being seen as a winner that people want to follow. And so we are, now that we're aware of it, accountable for allowing the assumption of achievement to go somewhere other than to the woman, or in any case, the man, who delivered it. It needs to go to someone or some group of people who are then going to take it and do the next thing. And I think that if we put that piece together with whatever are the list of unique qualities that women tend to bring most to the table, that's when we'll really see, I mean, we're already getting places, but we'll see kind of this pickup in momentum of the results we're achieving.
Great. Listen, that was fabulous. We are actually a little over time. I just want to thank you so much, Katherine, Katie, Jackie. It's just been wonderful to spend some time together and have this conversation. And actually, I think that you give us all listening tonight, and to so many millions of Americans, you give us a lot of hope and a challenge that it's really time to come together and put all of our skills to work to rewrite the rules of our democracy, so that all Americans have a voice, and so that we can remake our political institutions so that they really can deliver the results that we need. A message to everyone watching tonight. I hope this has really been a great teaser for our next Politics for the People conversation on October 4th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to spend an hour with Katherine and really dig into the politics industry and what she's putting forward there in terms of what needs to happen to remake our democracy and the political industrial complex. So pick up a copy of The Politics Industry Today. Oh, I don't have my book in front of me right now. And sign up for the
I have
call.
one.
You can go.
Right there.
Oh, good. There it is.
You're
That's what it
there.
looks
Yeah.
like. There we go. Yay. So get a copy today and go to that's the number, thepeople.com. Read along with us. We have a lot of our members are writing commentary. There's other videos of Katherine. And on our drop-down menu, you'll see where you can register for the call on October 4th. Thank you so much, everybody, for the conversation tonight. And we'll see everybody on October 4th. Good night.
Thanks. Thanks so
Good
much.
night.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone. See you soon.